Hi, everyone. Harry here to talk about Trump's unbelievably exorbitant legal fees and the way he's paying for them off the backs of small dollar supporters. Okay, so the possible first headline here is the whole thing might be illegal. It's not illegal to pay legal fees out of a PAC, and there's a requirement that it be related to the work of the PAC and his candidacy, but this would qualify the legal fees for Trump for the various lawsuits, etc. But remember, Jack Smith is looking into the whole enterprise because it was basically a fraud from the get-go because it was funded. Trump established it and solicited funds on the idea that the election was stolen, which was always bogus, and there was an initial entity that didn't even exist. So the whole thing may be in Jack Smith's crosshairs, and it'll be very interesting what happens if there are charges against it. Would that mean that the entire millions of dollars, I think it's 300 million plus, would somehow be imperiled? Andrew Weissman, who you guys have probably heard of, even suggested if it's an alleged crime, you could forfeit the entire fund, which would be, a devastating shot across the bow to Trump. But let's leave that part aside. That's headline number one, potentially. But headline number two is how this whole fund is being used essentially to as a legal defense fund for Trump and all the former president's men. So in the first half of this year, they spent $30 million. 21 million on legal fees. 6 different law firms and lawyers got over $1 million in legal fees in the first half of the year. Stop and think about that for a second. Even a very high-priced lawyer, $1 million in legal fees. That's enormous. And of course, a large part of it is because there are just so many possible defendants and witnesses, which is another problem that I'll get to in a moment, that the money is funding. So you have this disproportionate amount of money for legal fees. So even as Trump hugely outraises his competitors, it just gushes out in legal fees. And, there's a kind of contemptible aspect to it because he's, making these continual fundraising appeals, and a very high percentage of his donations here are small dollar donations, meaning, he's basically really going after people who don't have a ton of money but believe in him, give him money, and then it goes straight into his legal fees. And of course, the legal fees are high because a lot of the lawyers have learned the lessons of formerly burned Trump lawyers and are insisting on the money up front. And that's to the extent he has a few good lawyers on hand now, and he does. That's a big part of the reason. So even as he's, the richest guy in funding by far, it just gushes out to legal fees more and more and more. And it raises complicated ethical questions. Not, again, it's technically, it can be kosher, but he's got some lawyer, Stan Woodward, who I'm a pretty respected lawyer overall, but seems to be representing like a dozen different witnesses, and it gets funky. There are potential conflicts, potential concerns when the Trump organization is funding the bills. If the lawyer is totally solid, okay, but remember, say, Cassidy Hutchinson, who was using a Trump-funded lawyer who basically told her, according to her, to lie or just bob and weave and get out of there quickly. And it was only after she got a different lawyer that she told the very, very important testimony that kind of blew open one hearing of the January 6th committee. So there's several aspects here that are funky or worrisome, starting with the whole possibility that the fund itself is against the federal criminal law as a fraud, but even without it, all the small donor stuff going straight to lawyers, and then the worry that we had with De Oliveira, the new defendant in Mar-a-Lago. The very last thing in the indictment, Walt Nauta sort of checks him out on Signal, reports he's loyal, and then mob boss analog Donald Trump calls him up and says he'll supply the lawyers. So they're using these political contributions really not just to pay legal fees, but to sort of keep people in the fold. And the whole thing, maybe there are some people who have alleged there are legal violations. They involve complicated transfers between a PAC and a super PAC, but at best, it really doesn't smell very good and may, in fact, be something may have to give for some of the witnesses in order for the full truth to be out. For now, it's a juggernaut of a fundraising campaign, but some 70% of it all going to legal fees, and it's only looking like that's going to get more and more and more as in the next 2 weeks we have two really big cases that are likely to be indicted in Jack Smith's January 6th case, which could come any day now, in the words of Trump, and the Fulton County indictment. There you have it. A lot of money, but mainly for legal fees. That's what it means to be working for Donald Trump in 2023. Talk to you later. Thanks for tuning in. If you enjoyed this video and other Talking Feds content, please take a second to like and subscribe. Talk to you later.